Many years ago, in the quiet yet dramatic village of Igesha, a place so calm that even goats walked around like landlords who owned the land, there lived a man called Pagadi, also known as Latuni. He was a grandfather whose face was permanently arranged like someone forever smelling trouble. His voice sounded like a broken megaphone mixed with thunder, the kind that made children stand straight even before he finished speaking. Pagadi believed with his whole chest that discipline was the only language children should ever understand. He carried his long cane the way soldiers carried rifles, always ready for battle, always prepared to reset destinies at the slightest sign of nonsense. The villagers feared him respectfully. Even the chickens in his compound walked carefully, pecking the ground like they were apologizing, because everyone knew Pagad did not smile with rubbish. Years earlier, when Pagade was raising his own children, he ruled his home like a military barracks. To him, emotions were a waste of time, and softness was the fastest way to raise useless children. So he trained his sons with iron hands, iron voice, and iron rules. If a child sneezed without permission, punishment followed. If someone forgot to greet loudly enough, Pagade would make the child kneel on raw gari until tears washed the dust away. People gossiped behind his back, saying he was too harsh. But Pagad insisted that discipline makes men, and anyone who argued received a lecture longer than Sunday service. His first son, Samuel, now known as Sammy, grew up under that hardness. And the very moment he turned 18, he escaped to the city like someone running away from a hungry lion. In his heart, he made a silent promise to himself, my own children will never live under military rule. Far away from Igesha, Sammy built a new life, married a beautiful woman named Lillian, and together they had 3 children. There was Tiara, a dramatic 17-year-old fashion-loving TikTok queen who believed she was born to be a superstar. There was Tundi, a 15-year-old gamer, whose full-time career involved eating snacks and pressing phone buttons like a professional. And then there was Tenny, the 11-year-old lastborn, small, innocent-looking, but secretly the chief strategist of the house, capable of convincing anyone to do anything without raising her voice. These children were pure Gen Z champions. They spoke English faster than radio presenters and believed rules were only suggestions. Everything could be negotiated like a business deal. So when Sammy announced one evening that they would be traveling to the village for Christmas, the children reacted as if someone had just told them they were being deported to another planet. Tiara screamed and collapsed into a chair, clutching her chest like a Nollywood actress. Village? Why? What have we done? Tundi blinked rapidly. Do they even have Wi-Fi there? Tenny asked seriously. Will there be charging ports or do we use candles? Sammy shushed them and explained that family was important and that old people needed love. But the children exchanged looks of horror like prisoners silently planning an escape. Their mother rubbed their backs gently and advised them to behave well, but deep down, the children already knew suffering was loading. The decision was final. They began the long journey, stopping several times for roadside plantain chips, gala, and sachet water. By the time they entered Igesha village, the sun was shining with wicked intention, as if it wanted to roast human beings. Villagers stood at their compound gates, watching and smiling like people waiting for free entertainment. And they were right. Pagad had already announced that his grandchildren were coming, and everyone was eager to see how old-school military training would collide with Gen Z energy. As the car stopped at the gate, Pagad was already waiting. He stood tall with a stick in one hand, the other behind his back, like a retired general inspecting soldiers. He did not smile. He did not wave. He simply stared like a CCTV camera scanning for trouble. When the children stepped out, Tiara stretched her legs and adjusted her hair, but thunder struck. Stop right there! Pagad's voice boomed, slicing through the air. Nobody enters this compound without greeting properly. The children froze like statues. Sammy quickly bowed and greeted loudly. Good afternoon, sir. We have arrived. Pagad nodded slowly and turned his sharp eyes to the children. Greet with respect! Tiara stammered. Good afternoon, Grandpapa. Tundi whispered, "Good afternoon, sir." Tenny greeted sharply, fear clearly dancing in her eyes as she stared at the cane. Pagad scanned them from head to toe, then cleared his throat. "Before you enter my house, hear my rules. This is not city nonsense. In this compound, children behave like children, not foreign ambassadors. No phones after 6 p.m., no sleeping beyond 4:30 a.m., no noise, no social media, no useless makeup, no trousers sagging, no earphones, no TikTok dancing for strangers, no talking back, and no questioning my authority. Do you understand me?" The children stared at him like electricity had shocked their souls. Tiara whispered, "Is this a prison or a holiday?" Tundi whispered back, "Both." Tenny swallowed hard. Sammy tried to intervene. "Daddy, please, times have changed." Pagad turned slowly, like an angry lion about to strike. "Times may change, but foolishness remains the same. When I trained you, did you die?" Sammy lowered his head. He didn't die, but his mind had nearly escaped. Pagad clapped sharply. "Good. Take your bags inside. Tomorrow morning the training begins." The children dragged their luggage like prisoners being relocated. Tiara looked back at the compound gate and whispered, "If I survive this holiday, I deserve a national award." Tundi nodded in agreement, and little Tenny muttered softly, "God, please help us." The next morning, before the sun even remembered its duty, before the first rooster in Igsha cleared its throat to crow, Pagade was already awake. He marched across the compound like a seasoned military commander inspecting troops before war. In one hand, he held his long cowbell, in the other, his faithful cane. Without warning, he shook the bell with such force that even the ancestors resting peacefully on the ground almost turned in their graves. "Paka-pa-pa-pa!" The sound exploded through the quiet compound like a crusade loudspeaker possessed by fire. Inside the room, chaos erupted. Tiara jumped out of bed screaming, convinced the world was ending. Tundi rolled off his mattress, hit the floor, and shouted in panic, "Hey, who died? Who is chasing us?" Little Tenny, who had been dreaming of ice cream and cartoons, woke up crying, "Earthquake, somebody help me!" Outside, Pagad continued ringing the bell proudly, his voice following it like thunder. "Wake up, morning devotion. Children who love God do not sleep like goats." Tiara staggered out of bed, her hair pointing in different directions like wires from a broken radio. She squinted at the wall clock and gasped, "Grandpa, it's 4:30 a.m. Even angels are still sleeping." Pagad frowned so hard his eyebrows looked ready to fight each other. "No nonsense in this house. We wake up at 4:30, pray for 1 hour, work for 2 hours, then eat at 8 a.m. Any child who cannot do that should return to the city and join the lazy generation." Tundi rubbed his eyes and whispered to Tiara, "Lazy generation. Does he know school starts at 8 a.m. in the city?" Tiara whispered back, "He thinks life is war. Everything is suffering to him." Unfortunately, Pagadi's ears were sharper than village radio. He raised his cane. "From today you will learn discipline. I trained your father like this, and he turned out successful." Tundi muttered quietly, "Successful." Daddy escaped and never came back. Tiara pinched him hard to silence him. They were ordered to kneel for devotion. As Pagadi prayed, his voice shook the windows like an earthquake. "Oh Lord, these children must not grow stubborn or useless. Deliver them from the spirit of rudeness, phones, and nonsense." Tiara and Tundi exchanged tired looks like prisoners awaiting judgment, while Tenny cleverly slept with her eyes half open, pretending to pray. When the prayer finally ended, the children hoped for rest like normal humans. Instead, Pagadi clapped loudly. "Work time!" He handed Tiara a broom taller than her body and pointed outside. "Sweep the entire compound. Not one leaf must remain. If I see one, you start again." Tiara's mouth opened wide in shock. But Grandpa, this compound is like a football field, and leaves are still falling from the trees. Pagad raised one eyebrow, then sweep faster than the leaves fall. Tiara nearly fainted on the spot. Next he handed Tandi a rusty cutlass. Go and cut the grass behind the house. It must be low like a baby's haircut. Tandi stared at the grass, which looked like a forest that had survived several generations. Grandpa, this grass has been growing since Noah built the ark. Pagad barked, no complaints. A lazy man is worse than a thief. For little Tenny, Pagadi placed 3 basins of cassava in front of her. Peel everything. If your hands pain, sing worship songs. It gives strength. Tenny stared at the cassava mountain like Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm only 11, she whispered sadly. This is child labor. Pagadi ignored them and walked away to drink his hot, bitter leaf tea like a champion who had already won the battle. When breakfast finally arrived, the children expected bread and tea. City comfort. Instead, they met boiled yam without oil and small cups of water. Tiara stared at the plate, fighting tears. Grandpa, where is egg or something? Pagadi looked confused. Egg for who? What have you achieved today that deserves egg? They ate sadness disguised as yam and sighed deeply. Later, they rushed back to their room to recover emotionally with their phones, only to discover they were gone. Tiara screamed so loudly birds flew out of trees. My phone is gone! Somebody call 911. Tandi searched everywhere, breathing hard like someone with asthma. Tenny burst into tears. This village wants to kill me. Suddenly Pagad appeared behind them like a ghost from a horror movie, holding all 3 phones triumphantly. Looking for these? The children froze. Phones are generators of foolishness, he said calmly. I am confiscating them until you learn respect. Their cries followed him like funeral songs, but Pagad walked away confidently like a king who had conquered a nation. That night, after watery okra soup that tasted like aloe vera, the children gathered secretly under their blankets with touchlights, whispering like underground freedom fighters. Tiara's eyes burned with fire. Grandpa thinks he's the only stubborn one here. He has forgotten that General Z blood is hot. Tandi nodded. We need revenge. Operation Fire for Fire. Tenny clenched her small fist. We strike tomorrow morning. They joined hands like warriors taking an oath, and just like that, the war officially began. By 4 a.m. the next morning, before the cowbell could shake their souls, the Triple T gathered quietly, whispering plans like rebels preparing for freedom. Tiara, being the eldest, crossed her arms dramatically and lifted her chin like a queen addressing her warriors. General Z does not lose battles, she declared with confidence burning in her eyes. Victory is our portion. Grandpa must understand that we are not his soldiers. Tandi nodded seriously, like a general approving a dangerous war plan. Yes, today he will experience a kind of stress he has never seen before. Little Tenny, though small in body, clenched her fist like a boxer ready for the ring and whispered fiercely, "We will finish him." Gently. Step 1 of their plan was simple and wicked. Destroy Grandpa's sleep, the same way he destroyed theirs. While Pagad was outside brushing his teeth and humming old war songs, they sneaked into his room like trained thieves. Tandi carefully adjusted the alarm clock, setting it to ring every 20 minutes between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. He increased the volume to the loudest possible level and pushed it deep under Grandpa's bed. Tiara smiled like a movie villain who had just pressed the red button. Perfect, she whispered. Let's see how he feels when sleep becomes suffering. That evening, while Pagad was taking his bath and scrubbing himself like a disciplined soldier, the children entered the kitchen. There they found his precious bitter leaf tea, guarded like a sacred treasure. He always said it was medicinal food for long life. Tiara lifted the pot cover gently and whispered, "Long life is good, but tonight he will taste the seasoning of suffering." She poured half a packet of salt into the pot while Tandi stirred with dangerous excitement. Tenny clapped quietly. He will explode. That night, when the village was swallowed by darkness and only moonlight shone weakly like a tired candle, the children began phase 2. Tiara played ghostly sounds on her tablet. Crying voices, strange whispers, and howling wind effects. Tundi knocked softly on Grandpa's door 3 times and whispered in a scary voice, "Pagad, we are here." Pagad sat up immediately, eyes wide, like someone who had seen a spirit holding a cutlass. He grabbed his Bible in one hand and a torchlight in the other. "Who is that?" he shouted. "Show yourself! If you are a spirit, I am a child of Jehovah." He opened the door aggressively, but the corridor was empty. He frowned and muttered, "My enemies want to test me." He went back to bed angrily. 5 minutes later, the alarm under his bed screamed like a wounded goat. Pagadi jumped up in terror, almost hitting his head on the wall. "Blood of Jesus! Who put alarm under my pillow?" He turned it off and lay back down. But 20 minutes later, it rang again, then again, and again. By 4 a.m., Pagad's eyes were wide open like streetlights, sweat pouring down his face as if he had wrestled with thunder all night. At breakfast, Grandpa looked like expired bread. His eyes were red, his face swollen, and his hands trembled as he tried to sit upright with dignity. When he tasted his bitter leaf tea, his face changed instantly, like a chameleon falling into acid. He coughed violently. "Who cooked this poison?" The children pretended to be confused. Tiara asked sweetly, "Grandpa, what happened? Are you okay?" Pagadi slammed the spoon on the table. "This tea has enough salt to bury a village. Are you trying to kill me?" Tandi blinked innocently. "Maybe your taste buds are tired from shouting at children." Pagad glared like a lion ready to strike, but before he could respond, loud banging erupted at the gate. Villagers were shouting his name. Already frustrated and confused, he marched outside. The village council stood waiting. The chairman held a paper and shook his head sadly. "Pagade, we received an anonymous complaint. They say you are too harsh, outdated, and your leadership is no longer needed. We must discuss removing you as a village elder." The murmuring grew louder. Pagad froze. The cane dropped from his hand. His eyes blinked rapidly like someone slapped by an invisible spirit. "Remove me?" he whispered. "After all my years of service?" Behind him, Tiara, Tandi, and Tenny stood pretending to be innocent angels. Tenny whispered, "He looks like he wants to faint." And just like that, he did. Pagade collapsed slowly like a wall falling. Villagers screamed and rushed forward. "Bring water!" The children grabbed each other's hands, trembling. "This has gone too far," Tiara whispered, her voice shaking. "We didn't plan for collapsing." Tundi swallowed hard. "We only wanted small panic." They watched silently as the villagers carried Grandpa inside. Pagad was laid on the long wooden chair, breathing weakly, sweat pouring down his face. The children stood in one corner, hearts beating like talking drums. "This was not the plan," Tiara whispered repeatedly. "We just wanted him to stop disturbing us." Tandi muttered, "We have committed abomination." Little Tenny hugged herself tightly and prayed, "God, please let him live. I don't want village people blaming us." Soon, Sammy and Lillian rushed in after frantic calls from neighbors. Sammy barged into the house shouting, "What happened? Where is my father?" He rushed to Pagad's side and knelt. "Daddy, please open your eyes. It's me, Sammy." Slowly, Pagad's eyelids fluttered open. He stared at the ceiling like a man watching memories instead of a roof. His voice came out weak, like a tired toad croaking. Sammy leaned closer, fear shaking his voice. "Daddy, what happened?" Pagad slowly turned his eyes toward the children standing before him. Guilt stamped boldly across their young faces. Tears gathered in his eyes, and that alone shocked everyone in the room, because no one had ever seen Pagad cry, not at funerals, not in pain, not even when life hit him hardest. He swallowed hard, his voice weak and trembling. "Maybe I have failed," he said softly. "Maybe I am no longer needed." Tiara burst into tears immediately. She rushed forward. "Grandpa, please don't say that. We are sorry." Tundi wiped his face with his sleeve, his voice breaking. "We went too far. We didn't know it would hurt you like this." Sammy sighed deeply, confusion weighing on his heart. Daddy, I think we deserve to know the truth. Why are you so strict? Why is everything shouting and discipline? What are you afraid of? We are adults now. You can talk to us. Paget closed his eyes and took a long, shaky breath. When he opened them again, pain sat there like a heavy stone. He shook his head slowly. You won't understand. Or maybe you will now. Many years ago, I was not like this. I laughed, I played, I spoke gently. Everyone leaned closer. Your grandmother, my mother, was sick for many years. Doctors warned us that stress could kill her. She worried too much and wanted everything perfect. I believed that if I removed chaos from the house, if I became firm and organized, she would live longer. He wiped the tears rolling down his cheeks. I shouted when children fought because I wanted silence for her. I punished mistakes because I wanted perfection. I thought strictness was protection. But I did not realize I was turning into a monster. Sammy lowered his head. Daddy, you never told us. Paget nodded slowly. When she died, I blamed myself. I carried guilt like a heavy stone. I thought discipline was the only thing holding the family together. I didn't know that discipline without understanding becomes a prison. Lillian wiped her tears as the children cried openly. Tiara stepped forward and held Paget's hand gently. Grandpa, we are sorry. We thought you hated us. Paget squeezed her hand weakly. I never hated you. I was scared of losing family again. Tundi knelt beside him. We only wanted freedom. We didn't know you were fighting something inside. Little Tenny hugged herself and whispered, Grandpa, we won't run away. We love you. Please don't leave us. The entire compound dissolved into tears. Outside, villagers quietly stepped away, wiping their eyes. Even the village gossip aunties stopped gossiping for one whole day. The next morning, the children woke up early, not because of a cowbell, but because they wanted a new beginning. They cleaned the compound, fetched water, and cooked breakfast without being told. When Paget woke and saw them moving peacefully, he stared like a man witnessing a miracle. Tiara smiled. Grandpa, sit down. Today, we will serve you. Tundi dusted the chair carefully. Tenny placed a cup of hot tea in front of him proudly. Paget's eyes softened. Thank you, my children, he whispered. And for the first time in the history of Igisha, Paget apologized. I am sorry. I should have listened. I should have loved with patience, not fear. The children apologized too. We should have talked instead of planning war. They hugged tightly, and that hug healed years of silence. Later that day, Tiara and Tundi helped Paget create his first TikTok account, Grandpa J, while Tenny taught him how to smile for selfies. When he tried, he looked like a constipated goat, and everyone laughed until tears rolled down again. News spread quickly that Paget had changed, and the villagers gathered for a joyful Christmas celebration. Standing before them, Paget spoke gently without shouting. Discipline without love destroys. Love without discipline spoils. But balance builds great children. I was wrong. But now I am learning again. The crowd clapped loudly as food was shared. Sammy whispered to Lillian. Daddy finally learned. She smiled, and so did the children as fireworks lit the sky. That night, under the stars, Paget told Tiara, Tundi, and Tenny, you did not come to learn discipline. You came to teach me love. And in that moment, the family became whole again. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts in the comments. What lesson did you learn? Share this story with your loved ones. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more African tales. Until I bring another story your way. Bye.